Let me tell you, I never thought a $500 fine and a humming generator would turn me into some sort of folk hero. But, well, here we are. You ever have one of those weeks where it feels like the universe just dares you to stay quiet? Yeah, that happened. It all started on day 3 of a power outage, my house colder than a tax collector's heart, when I saw the letter taped to my front door. Crisp, white, official. And right then, without even looking, I knew exactly who'd left it. Name's Jackson Kimball. I've lived in Pine Ridge Estates, Boulder, Colorado, for just over 7 years. 7 years of going along to get along. Mowing my lawn to the precise inch the bylaws demand. Painting my shutters that blessed forest green. Never letting my grass get more than a little sassy, you know what I mean? Never been a troublemaker. But the winter that changed, well, I guess everyone's got a line. See, that January, the ice storm hit like the world wanted us all to become popsicles. Power lines down, trees like shattered glass in the streets. The company said, for more days, folks. For days. My kids, Emma and Connor, their cheeks already pink from the chill, and my wife, Sarah, just looking at me like, well, what's the plan, superhero? So I did what any dad would do. I cranked up my old Honda generator in the garage and kept the lights on. Phones charged. Fridge humming. House just barely warm enough to feel like home. Enter Patricia Wilkinson. If you've never met a true HOA president, let me set the scene. She lives 3 streets over, her house twice the size of mine. The sort of home that comes with columns just to make a point. Patricia, she's got that haircut, you know the one, tight blonde helmet, face always pinched like she just tasted something sour. She's the kind of person who'd fine you for a mailbox that was half a shade off. Her letter, in icy prose, spelled it out. Dear Mr. Kimball, you are in violation of Section 12, Paragraph 4, operating a gasoline-powered generator, considered a noise nuisance. Cease immediately or face fines of $500 per day. Signed, with all the warmth of a January wind, Patricia Wilkinson. I stood in my driveway, my breath clouding up like a cartoon, and just listened to the generator. Inside, the kids were warm, Sarah making sandwiches by the window to save gas. Outside, apparently, I was a one-man noise apocalypse. And here's the thing, this wasn't just me. My neighbor Tom called right as I walked inside. Jackson, you get a letter too? Yeah, Tom, I did. Patricia called me directly, 20 minutes ago. I shut mine down. $500 a day, man, can't risk it with the medical bills. Tom's voice sounded like he'd aged 5 years in 3 days. She told me to tough it out. Power will be back soon, she says. Generators are disturbing the peace. And I just thought, disturbing the peace? Lady, the only peace I'm disturbing is hypothermias. I looked at Sarah, handed her the letter. She read it, jaw set, eyes narrowing. This is Patricia, isn't it? Same woman who reported Mrs. Chin over her mailbox? Yep, that's the one. Can she actually do this? I'd served a term on the HOA board myself. A fun experience if you like watching paint dry and then getting fined for it. I knew the rules. The generator ban was meant for folks running big industrial ones day and night, not for emergencies. She can try, I said, but I'm not shutting it down. Not with our kids here. Sarah grinned. Good. Let her come. We'll fight it. Next day, another letter. This one certified mail, like I was being served for treason. Now I was officially in violation, fine started, and if I didn't comply in a week, they'd put a lien on my house. That's when I called David Morrison, a lawyer who'd once helped a buddy of mine out of a property dispute. David, in his calm, I'm not paid enough for this tone, told me to document everything. Photos, temperatures, letters. If she pushes, we push back. At that point, I figured maybe, just maybe, Patricia had her wires crossed. Maybe a real conversation would fix it. So I drove over, roads still an ice rink, Patricia's colonial mansion looming like something out of a Hallmark Christmas movie. You know the type. 3-car garage. White columns. But as I walked up, guess what I heard? Yeah, a generator. Her generator, purring behind some shed, so quiet you'd think it ran on fairy dust. She opened the door, didn't invite me in. Mr. Kimball. The what do you want was implied. I tried to be reasonable. Patricia, this is an emergency. My family needs heat. She barely blinked. The rules are the rules, Mr. Kimball. They don't change just because things are inconvenient. And the hum of her generator? Getting louder. You're running a generator right now, I said. Her lips got thin. That's different. Of course it was. Hers was in a custom soundproof shed, properly permitted, professionally installed. Mine was just noise. I asked, so the rule only applies to those without an extra $5,000 for a soundproof box? She didn't answer. Just, the fine stands, Mr. Kimball. Good day. Something snapped in me right there. Not a rage kind of snap, just clarity. Patricia was using her power, literal and figurative, to make my life hell while she cozied up in her warm house. That's when I decided I wasn't playing along. David was thrilled. Selective enforcement, he called it. Take photos. Get sound readings if you can. So I spent Wednesday as a one-man detective, measuring decibels, snapping photos of Patricia's fancy shed and my own tired generator. Turns out, my Honda in the open garage. 70 decibels from the street, like a vacuum cleaner. Patricia's? Barely a whisper. But here's the twist. When I really dug into the bylaws, I found Patricia herself had rewritten the rules 2 years earlier. Emergency backup power, professionally installed, was exempt. And only 4 people voted for it. 3 of them her friends. She'd literally carved out an exception for herself. By Thursday, the fine was up to $1,500. But now David was fired up. We'll file an injunction. And if you get 20% of the neighbors on a petition, you can force an emergency meeting. 16 signatures in a neighborhood of 80? Child's play. Turns out, half the residents had a Patricia story. Steve Martinez, the guy who lived across the street, signed my petition before I finished asking. She made me cut down a healthy tree because it blocked her view. The stories rolled in. Christmas lights up one day too long, chalk drawings, basketball hoops, you name it. By Friday, I had 23 signatures. And, wouldn't you know it, the power came back Saturday morning. But as David said, the fines were issued during the emergency. They're still on the hook. Patricia tried her best to spin it. Emails to everyone, calling the petition fraudulent. But it was too late. The board scheduled the meeting for the following weekend. 60 people showed up, standing room only. Patricia at the front, face like she'd just swallowed a lemon, flanked by Linda and Gary, the other board members. David, ever the professional, by my side. The mood was, let's say, not neighborly. People were mad. Patricia tried to control the show, but the room was having none of it. How much are you paying yourself? Someone shouted. Show us the books. David stood up. By law, you have to show financials. And I'm requesting a full audit. Patricia looked like she might faint. When it was my turn, my hands were shaking, but I told my story. Generator, fines, Patricia's exemption. I held up the bylaws, pointed to her revision. She wrote herself out of the rule, and she did it while fining me and letting herself skate. The room exploded in applause. David dropped the hammer. Selective enforcement is illegal. The fines are excessive. We asked they be rescinded and the rules revised. Gary, the treasurer, piped up. I wasn't consulted on these fines. I only processed them because Patricia told me to. Linda, too. The crowd started yelling. Patricia slammed her hands on the table, refusing to answer, but David was ready. By law, you have 10 days to provide full records. And we're voting on an audit right now. The vote. Unanimous except for Patricia. The meeting ended with Patricia put on administrative leave, fines against me suspended, and a new board election scheduled. She stormed out, and I didn't see her again for weeks. The audit came back 3 weeks later, and, man, it was something. Patricia had embezzled nearly $50,000, personal expenses, unauthorized consulting fees, kickbacks from her brother's landscaping company. David called me, almost giddy. Jackson, this is criminal. I'm reporting her to the sheriff. Next thing you know, Patricia's arrested. Tom called me. Dude, they just took Patricia out in cuffs. It made the local news. Patricia Wilkinson, disgraced HOA president, was looking at real jail time. The new board apologized, refunded my legal fees, and rewrote the rules. Clear emergency exemptions, no more runaway fines. The community changed overnight. Suddenly, people talked to each other. Steve, now board president, even bought backup generators for emergencies. My Honda just sat in the garage, mostly quiet. The trial, months later, was everything you'd hope. Patricia tried to claim she had authorization for every penny, but the jury saw through it. For years in prison, full restitution, and the end of her petty reign. Her husband divorced her, moved away. The new board actually ran things right. Life got boring, and that was perfect. But, life's funny. One night, a journalist showed up, Rachel Morrison, from some consumer advocacy group. Would you share your story? HOA abuse is everywhere, and people need to hear when it goes right. So I told her. And soon, other HOAs changed their bylaws, adding emergency exceptions, learning from our mess. Emails poured in, strangers telling me their own HOA horror stories, some just saying thanks. And me? I stayed on the board, got to know David, turned into that guy who double-checks the bylaws and makes sure no one gets steamrolled. Our kids grew up. Emma and Connor thrived. Sarah got a promotion. Pine Ridge turned into an actual community. A couple years later, I got a letter from Patricia. No real apology, just a note from prison saying she hoped I was well. I wrote back, wished her luck, but didn't bother with forgiveness. That's between her and herself. Nowadays, I keep that generator maintained, run it once a month, just in case. The last ice storm only lasted 12 hours. Connor asked if we'd get in trouble again. Nope, bud. The rules are different now. We changed them together. That's what matters, isn't it? The rules serve the people, not the other way around. Here's the thing. I could have just shut down the generator, paid the fine, told myself it wasn't worth it. But if I had, Patricia would have kept right on steamrolling whoever she pleased. Instead, we fought. We won. Pine Ridge is better for it. It's not about one man or one generator. It's about standing up when it matters, even if you're shaking in your boots. So let me ask you, what would you have done in my place? Ever tangled with a petty tyrant or faced down some ridiculous rule? Did you fight back or let it slide? I'd love to hear your stories about justice, about right and wrong, about standing up when the world tells you to sit down. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Maybe, just maybe, we can keep the conversation and the change going.